Hey guys, today we're doing a review of the new Real Grey Crossbone Gundam. I'll tell you right at the top that I don't know anything at all about this suit other than I bought it because it has a skull on it and I like Real Greys, which is why you'll repeatedly hear me say that I haven't seen the anime, and I've now realized that there apparently is no anime. Shows what I know, huh? If you want a more in-depth look at how the kit goes together, I also have a long write-up on my blog. The link is in the description below. You can also get a better look at some of my pictures there if you want. But let's take a look at what's in here. I'm not doing a full unboxing, but I thought I'd give you guys a look at all the sprues. It doesn't look like anything special if you see it all laid out here because it's about the usual number of parts, but I'm telling you, these parts are tiny. More on that in a moment. First, I'd like to direct your attention to the B sprue. Yup, that's a whopping 2 parts left that have pre-molded joints. The one on the left goes inside the core fighter, the other is for the torso. I wonder how much longer it's going to take for Bandai to abandon this completely. They're clearly phasing it out, and that's fine because the 3 kits they've now made more or less without it have been more than solid, especially the Sazabi. Now, about the size of those parts. Here's a comparison to the Real Grey Mark II, which I'd say is about average in size. The crossbone basically looks like a child next to it. It's really hard to convey in pictures or even in video how tiny this kit is, but you really need to keep it in mind when you gauge the amount of detail. It's a bit deceptive. I'll talk some more about this at the end. Let's get a better look at the kit now. So, let's take a look at the suit first. We'll start with the arms. Of course, the shoulder rotates all the way around here. You don't need me to show you that. One problem I have with the shoulder articulation is that it's not possible, see here, to pull the arm out, until it's actually horizontal, which restricts actually some, you can't have him like aiming his gun this way, and so that's a problem for me. Elbow articulation is fine. Goes all the way up here until it hits the shoulder armor. You could probably bend it a full 180 degrees, but it's just the shoulder armor that gets in the way. The usual ball joint here for the hand, although some hands have a hinge built into them. I'll show you that later. We have an opening cockpit here, which I think is kind of cool because if you look closely, you can see the cockpit of the core fighter in there. I'll show you the core fighter in a minute. The skirts all move as far as you need them to. This one has something else built into it that I'll show you later. Legs go up and back. Back actually, on the back only this far, but you can, let me see if I can make this work. Unhook the, unhook the, whoops, hip joint, which results in this knee pad falling off. And then you can bend it up farther, right? Problem is though, if you look at this, when they're pointing down, it doesn't look very convincing. It's a bit weird. So unless you're going to do a pose, I think, where you want both legs to go up all the way like that, I'm not sure you'd want to use that, but it's there if you want it. These knee pads like to come off. I always have this problem with this one, which is why it's glued in place now. I'll probably have to glue this one as well, now that I've seen it come off. Another thing I just forgot to mention about the knee articulation is you can see when I move this slowly here, the knee actually moves a little bit. Some old school real great stuff going on there. The feet are not that great. First of all, yeah, they bend. See here, toe bend, and then the foot as a whole pivots like that. Rotates, but bumps into the ankle armor very quickly, and side to side movement here it's there, but it moves in every direction you would want it to move, just not very far. And then it also has these blades on the back here, which I'm sure that's some lore thing that I'm not aware of. I personally, I'm not a real big fan because these are just really thin and I'm always scared of breaking them off, and The way they're held in place is also not very convincing. Finally, before I show you the core fighter, the waist rotates about yay far, which personally really I think is fine. I wouldn't want it to rotate any farther. And we have a fairly respectable ab crunch, especially going backwards, which I really like because it means we can do poses of him. You know, if you look at how far the head will go, you can actually have him flying forward like that and actually looking forward, which is really nice. This doesn't work with a lot of kits. Speaking of which, we have the head is on all the usual, really. It's on a ball joint here, you can see. And then the neck is also articulated, so it goes pretty far. And now I can't get it back down. Come on. Hold on. Let me pluck it off for a second there. And that is the neck back in position. Now, while I have the head off anyway, let me see if I can show you this. This head is so small. You have no idea. And it actually has, I think you can even see the line here. It actually has an opening mouth. See this? You can open the mouth. It's pretty cool. I'm going to leave this off for a second because I want to show you guys the core fighter. The core fighter slots into the back like this. And in order to do that, it has this nose that folds down. These are supposed to go, I think, all the way down to the side here. And you can fold these guys in and out. Now, one thing that kind of bugs me is you can never get them to really be completely parallel. So you kind of have to fiddle with them a bit until you get something that looks okay. But yeah, there you have it, core fighter. Very insanely detailed, as these core fighters tend to be. I mean, or at least it looks that way because of the scale. I think the cockpit opens as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, clear cockpit hatch that opens. An actual cockpit detail in there too, just no pilot. So that's pretty crazy. Oh yeah, and finally, the thruster bells here can be moved so that you can actually have them pointing backwards when the core fighter is attached to the suit, which I'll show you right now how to put it back in. You fold the nose down, these go up, and then notice also how these spaces on the shoulders here are empty. The yellow detail you see in there is actually from the core fighter, which I don't know, I just think that's a cool touch. So anyway, the core fighter slots into the back here. And it does usually take some fiddling to actually get it all the way in. And when you hear it click, it's actually in there. You can also check here in the front if the cockpit is actually all the way at the front. Yeah, and that's it. Like I said, you know, once you have these things from the core fighter on the back here, you may want to bend the thruster bells back so that they're actually pointing in a direction that makes sense. I'll get the head back on. And that's the suit. Now let's take a look at the accessories, of which, trust me, there are many. So first of all, and I have to show you a second thing about this in a second, we have what is called the beam zamber. Let me hold it by the blade real quick so that I can show you the handle. It's very nicely articulated, sort of a pirate's cutlass, of course. I also have to say, I'll get this out of the frame, this doesn't look very nice, does it? I have to say I also like this effect part. I've looked at some other versions of the Crossbone, and this one has by far the coolest looking beam zamber blade. This just slots in here, of course. Next we have this pistol, which is also very pirate style, of course, and it comes with its own dedicated holding hand. Before I show you the gun, the holding hand, what's really important, I think, to know is you see here this white thing is the peg that holds the gun. This is actually, of course, this is actually part of the armor that goes on the back of the hand, and it's hard to show this on video because you really have to sort of feel it yourself, but this is 100% solid. I mean, this will not come off. I have to, if anything, it's actually, I really have to wiggle it loose to get the hand off of the gun. And if you've built any of the earlier real grades, then you'll appreciate this as much as I do. Some of those older models just couldn't hold their weapons for crap, and this is just, it's solid. It will not fall out. There is a different problem with the gun, but I'll get to that in a second. This transforms into a larger weapon if you connect it to, see if I can do this from memory. Yep, like that. You connect it to the beam's amber handle to make this really cool looking contraption. However, the problem with this is it does come with its own holding hand, which I have in here in my parts box. Actually, why don't I just lay all this crap out here so that you can look at it while I'm talking about it. Because now I have to dig through this box to find the, yeah, that's it. This is the holding hand for the gun, and also actually for the beam sabers. And it's, first of all, it's pretty tight, which is good. But as you'll see in a second, it slots into the handle here. Put this on top. This is, of course, aside from the fact that, like the other holding hands, it has this very solid peg. This is nothing unusual, of course. Now here you have a wrist joint that's on a hinge, right? Now that's nice. However, if you attach it to the Gundam itself, you'll see what I mean when I say it's a bit problematic, because if you attach the hand like that, you see this is about as close as I can get it to lining up with the lower arm here, and yeah, doesn't look that great, does it? And it's really just because this whole contraption here is getting in the way of the lower arm, which kind of makes me feel like maybe this should have folded down, or maybe it shouldn't be there at all. But either way, it doesn't work that well. Anyway, let's get that off. So that's the weapons. We also get beam sabers. 2 of them, in fact. Here we go. Not going to make a big thing out of these because they're not that interesting. We have these nice purple effects parts here, which are very soft. So good luck painting these if that's your plan. The handles, as you can see, is basically just a cylinder. That's the hole that the peg slots into, which will work very well, but on their own, these are really not much to look at. You also can't attach them anywhere on the suit, which, oh, incidentally, I almost forgot. This hole here is for attaching the gun, which has a peg here on the side. It's kind of big and unwieldy, though, even in pistol mode, so I don't know if you're going to want to do that. Now, more beam effect parts, of course. Let me get this fist back on here so that I can show you this. You can either attach this and this. Hold on, this has a point. I have to get that as well. There we go. Right. So these two, you can either slot this into the tip, and then you move this forward on this side, and there's another one, of course, on the other arm, like so. And now we can do 2 things. We can either attach these on both sides, which, yeah, like I've probably said about 15 times at this point, I've never seen the anime, so I don't know what this is, but it's pretty cool. What you can also do is that you can swap this out for this big beam shield and have him hold the beam shield like this. I'm not a huge fan of these beam shields because no matter what they do, it's just, to me, it doesn't look like a beam effect. It looks like a big clear piece of plastic. Sorry. I mean, it is, you know, I mean, I was just praising the beams. I mean, it's very nicely molded. You know, it's I like the design, and these two, they look nice for what they are, but what they are is clear pink pieces of plastic. Sorry. Now, I'll just, you know what, I'll just pour out the rest here because there's not much left, but it's probably going to take me a while to show you, especially the stuff with the chains, because I've never done that. So first of all, we have more hands here. This is one of the so-called like expressive hands, right? This is another holding hand for his right side. We have an open expressive hand for the left. This is a trigger finger hand for the left, meaning that we actually have, you see, we have two of these trigger finger hands, so you can put the pistol in either side. We have two of the holding hands, that's the one, right? We have two of these holding hands, we have the two open hands, and we have the two closed fists that I have on the suit right now, which means there are 8 hands in total, which is about all the hand options you could possibly want, right? Now, these weird Rambo-looking knife blades here. What's the deal with those, right? Well, the deal is you can either slot them into his feet like that for some sort of James Bond's knife hidden in my shoe action, or let me see if I can get this right without looking at the instructions. Yes, there is a knife handle in his leg. Both of them, actually. There's one on this side too, but I'm hoping you'll take my word for it. He has this knife here that the blade is meant to slot into somehow. Except apparently I'm not smart enough. Oh, here we go. So this is, it's hard to show because it's so small. He's got two of these Rambo knives as well. I don't think they're called Armor Schneiders, but I wanted to say Armor Schneiders again. This slots back in here. And finally, before I show you how to attach all this stuff to the stand, it has this chain thing, which again is something that I would probably understand better if I had actually seen the corresponding anime. You get two of these chains that slot in on both sides into where the skirt is, because the idea is that the skirt is just sort of extending outwards. Now you can flip these over, so you get this sort of claw-looking thing that extends outwards. And if I understood this correctly, the idea is that this sort of shoots out and then grabs other mobile suits, pulls them in so that he can, you know, mess them up close, because obviously, you know, between the beam Zamber and these like exploding fist things here, the Crossbone apparently is more of a melee oriented mobile suit, I guess. I really don't know. Feel free to lecture me about this in the comments. This slots back in here. Like I said, same thing on the other side. Now, finally, I think that was everything. At least I hope so. Let me check the box. Yeah, that was everything. Finally, how do you attach this to... Oh, no, I forgot something. But I'll have to do an edit to show you that anyway. How do you attach this to an action base? Like so. This, the gray piece here, is what comes with the kit. And you see, you have a peg here that points forward because it actually slots here into the back. Now, what this means is that when the suit's not attached to its stand, it does have this big ass ugly hole here that you initially, of course, assume is for slotting weapons into, but it's not. What it also means, though, is that you can attach it to the action base like that, and you can see it's very solid. Much easier to do than with the usual part that goes on the crotch, because you don't end up with this part stuck under there that's almost impossible to get out. So I honestly I prefer this. It's so handy. It works just as well. You don't have also when you're looking at it from the front, the stand is sort of behind it, so it looks nicer. This is really good. Finally, we have the cloak here. And I'm going to stop the camera real quick to try and get this on, because I've never been able to make this work. And you're not going to get to watch me fiddle with this for 10 minutes now until it's on, for the one and only time that I'm actually going to get it on, because I'll tell you right now, I don't like this. Okay, here it is. I will give it that this fits very nicely here around this protruding thing on the chest. Other than that, though, it's just... I've never understood why people like this. I'm sure it's cool in the anime when it happens, but the thing is just this cloak looks like something... It looks like something from a Warhammer figure, and maybe if you painted it that way, at least, you know, I mean, with a wash and some dry brushing for these, you know, for these things here, for these holes, and maybe some highlights on top of the folds, it would probably look pretty good. But it doesn't fit the... It just looks like it's designed for a more organic model or something. It just doesn't look like something that belongs on a Gundam. But you know, it's articulated here and here on the back, if that's what you're into. And also you can, if you fiddle with it enough, you can fit the core fighter into the back there. But I wasn't even going to bother. Yeah, I don't get it. I'm sorry. Last thing I'll show you while I have the core fighter out. Is that there is a piece to attach the core fighter to the base. Let me get this off. You put this on. And then the core fighter has these two grooves here that this slots into very nicely. And this way you can display the core fighter separately on an action base, like flying next to the Gundam or something, if that's what you want to do. Of course, these would have to be down, right? Okay, this is what it looks like. Yeah, this works really well. I think the Gundam looks much better with the core fighter inside of it, so I don't think I'll be doing that. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm gonna do the usual picture gallery now, so we'll take a look at that next. So I gotta say, I had a lot of fun doing this photo shoot, and I took pictures of the kit with every single accessory, as you'll see. Part of that is because there's just so much to mess around with here, but it's also really, really easy. This kit is insanely solid. I had next to no issues with parts falling off while I was swapping out weapons over and over and twisting it into different poses. And I think that's particularly impressive given how small this kit is. It really seems almost physically impossible for a kit this small to be nearly as posable as any other real grade kit and sturdier than most, but here we are. So the verdict is, if you like what you're looking at, go and buy one. Personally, I don't think this one is as flawless as I said the Sazabi was, because it was kind of a pain to put together. The big gun doesn't fit properly, and I also just don't love the design as much as I love the Sazabi. But if you're a fan of the Crossbone, this is an excellent piece of model kit engineering, and you should definitely get one. Honestly, this line just keeps getting better lately, and I'm already looking forward to the new. And that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.